brutal to watch.
Speedster.
It doesn't matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 10 of the Avenger League fantasy football season. A lot of weird scenarios coming down to the finish line here. Something we've been talking about a lot this morning in Discord. I'm recording this Thursday morning. Finally, day of release. I get to put this shit up. Off day on Thursday. It's a beautiful thing. But a lot of people staying alive, both last week and big chances to stay alive this week. In fact, there's a lot of forced chances to stay alive in the playoff hunt this week because of where the matchups land. So kind of before I get into a lot of the scenarios, we'll take a look at the standings here. Not a lot of movement at the top. Me and I don't even remember who is in fourth place at this point. Me and somebody swapped. I moved up 2 spots to second place. Wade moved up 2 spots to fourth place, and the only other movement was Cameron as the big dropper down to 6th place. So that leaves us with Raleigh in first, me in second, Tim in third, Wade in fourth, Andrew in fifth, Cameron in sixth, Ashley 7th, being the first team out of the playoffs at this point, Charlie in 8th, Trevor at 9th, and John bringing it up the rear in 10th place. But if you look at those record columns, there's a lot of repeating numbers there. And what's interesting is a lot of those teams, if you look over here, are playing each other. I'm playing Tim, which will basically be a fight for second place. Not basically, it will be a fight for second place. If Raleigh loses, I know he has the tiebreaker over me. I don't know if he has it over Tim. I could probably go actually I could look right here. By team, he does not have the tiebreaker over Tim. Interesting. So if Tim were to beat me this week and Raleigh were to lose, Tim would be your first place, your leader. So yeah, that's interesting. Didn't realize that, but I played Tim, which like I said, is basically a fight for second place, barring Raleigh losing, which is possible. Speaking of Raleigh, he's playing Andrew, who is kind of on the opposite end of the playoff spectrum, kind of fighting for his life down in 5th place with the same record as Cameron. I think they have the tiebreaker there, or Wade has the tiebreaker, and Cameron's kind of towards the bottom. Maybe the F word, fraudulent, not the other F word that he can say that I can't. And then we have Wade and Cameron playing each other. So one of them is going to kind of catapult back into the playoff picture and be almost cemented in. I personally, 7 and 6 get you in the playoffs. Maybe 6 and 7 get you in the playoffs. With 4 weeks left and 3 teams already having 6 or more losses, I could see 7 or 6 wins getting in the playoffs at 6 and 7 with that 6th spot. But I think once you hit 7 wins, I think you're in. So it's hard to imagine that the winner of the Cameron and Wade game can't find one more win in the last 3 weeks of the season, but we've seen crazier things happen. The more interesting part comes out of the bottom of the group here. Because there are 3 teams still technically alive for the playoff spot, especially when you consider that this cluster is all playing each other and in such a close tie. And I think there's some weird losses in here that would make the head-to-heads get a little bit funky at the bottom. But when you have Ashley playing John, who I'm sorry, John, she should win that game. Having her jump into 4 and 6, and then having one of these 3 teams, if not 2 of these 3 teams, dropping to 5 and 5, all of a sudden we're kind of in a pickle here. And I don't know if you remember, but Ashley does play Wade in the rivalry week in week 12. And then the other game from the bottom of the bracket is you basically have an elimination game between Charlie and Trevor. The loser of that game is done. That have 7 losses. It would be miraculous for them to rip off 3 wins in a row. I think Trevor could probably do it with his team lineup. But still, I mean, that's tough for anybody to do. So the winner of that game definitely stays alive, and the loser, I think, is eliminated. John is basically playing spoiler here and trying to knock Ashley off. If Ashley loses, like I said, her getting to 7, any of these teams getting to 7 losses is absolutely devastating. That pretty much eliminates their chances of the playoffs. So we could, if John pulls the upset, it's basically the winner of Trevor and Charlie that's still alive. And I'm gonna be honest, if Charlie wins that game, I think we have our playoffs kind of set. But we'll get to that when it happens. This is the most amount of teams I've seen alive at the end of a playoff push. And I know typically it's been 14 playoffs. So obviously the 16 playoff is factoring into that a lot, but it's the whole reason I voted for the 16 playoff personally, and not to reveal my votes here, but there's a reason I voted for it, is find me the difference in these 5 teams here. I don't necessarily see one. So having that 1 week wild card is going to be electric. I think we have a very clear cut top 3 teams, barring any crazy injuries or setbacks. These teams are kind of better. Oh, these teams. Oh, that's my team up there. That's crazy. But fuck, the bottom 6 teams. Even John's capable of winning a game or 2 here and there. The bottom 6 teams are all right there. If you eliminate these, I mean, they're all within 100 total points of each other, 150 total points of each other. That's 200 points. Trevor all the way down to Cameron. Is Cameron a fraud? I think Cameron's a fraud. Anyway, the reason that you're all actually here. Let's go ahead and get to it. Ooh, it's the wheel. Last week the wheel minigame was worst coach, and I honestly don't even remember who won it. I think it was Wade. I think it was Wade. Yep. Okay, there we go. Finally found it. It was Wade. Congratulations, Wade, for winning your $10. Congratulations on setting the least optimal lineup that you could. Yeah. Way to go, buddy. So let's see what we got this week. I didn't realize I had my speakers on and not my headphones. Whoops! I don't know where I sound muffled. Smallest margin of victory. Beautiful. And honestly, it's very fitting that in a week where wins matter so much and a lot of evenly matched teams are playing, very fitting that would be the mini game for the week. Which interestingly enough, before we get to our first game, I'd like to remind you all of the result of the first week that me and Tim played each other. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be my early favorite for just the winner of this game to get that. I'll scratch my throat early in the morning. All right, fuck it, dude. Let's start with this game. I like I said, it's a super interesting game. The winner's going to take over second place. If Tim wins, he's got a chance to take over first. And honestly, if I win, I look ahead. I play Raleigh next week. So if Raleigh were to lose this week, we're kind of playing for a shot at first place. Like I said, Tim would jump into first place this week with a Raleigh loss. If Raleigh loses, me and him would play next week with the winner jumping into first place and honestly being in the driver's seat for the 1 seed with only 2 weeks left at that point. But let's get into the games. the most interesting game on the board by far is going to be Chargers Lions. I think it's the most interesting game of the weekend anyway. And conveniently enough, it's the most interesting game for us, with myself, employing Justin Herbert and his big arms and big legs, and Timmy employing 2 Lions with Sun God and Sam Laporta, who is your my tight end 1 on the season. I think he's actually tight end 4. I'd consider him tight end 1. Travis Kelce stinks. Sorry, Andrew. And everybody else is mid except for TJ Hawkinson, who's awesome and I love him. Except for when he's a Lion. I'm just gonna get out in front of it. Love my matchups this week. Honestly, I looked at a lot of my players' rest of schedule. Play some cupcake ass schedules coming up. Justin Herbert against the Lions is probably the toughest matchup. But for me, the one that I'm gonna have my eye on, obviously, is going to be 49ers and Jags, with Christian McCaffrey and Ayuk taking on the Jags and Christian Kirk playing against the 49ers. And a lot of people would be like, "Oh, Chandler, but the 49ers defense is really good, right?" No. Shockingly, they're not. 30th against opposing wide receivers, so that's why we have Christian Kirk in there this week. And also Nico Collins nursing an injury, and everybody else is on bye, so good for me. Also Nico Collins, I'm gonna fuck myself because I was gonna try to trade Nico Collins. But I'm going to point this out because I need something to talk about, and it's interesting to me, and I like to hear myself talk. CJ Stroud threw for 407 yards and 5 touchdowns. He attempted, I'm not even going to look it up. I'm going to assume he attempted probably north of 40, 50 passes. Nico Collins, who's supposed to be wide receiver 1, had 3 receptions for 54 yards and a touchdown. If he did not score a touchdown, he would have had, 5 points last week? 4 points last week in a game where his quarterback threw for 500 yards. So, as consistent as Nico Collins is, that terrifies me going forward. Anyway, I had to get that rant out. Unfortunately for Tim, he does have his best player by far on a bye this week. Unfortunately for me, his second best player in Breece Hall is playing the Raiders. Now, did I pick up the Raiders defense? Yeah, because they're playing Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson loves taking sacks, and Zach Wilson loves throwing interceptions. That's great. What the Jets also love doing is having Breece Hall rip off 60-yard runs, and the Raiders love giving up 60-yard runs, so that scares the shit out of me. Especially considering that I gave him Breece Hall for Cooper Kupp, who's not even playing this week, which I knew that was the outcome, and I knew that was what the future held when I made that trade and when I accepted it, and I knew this was a possibility. And now that it's here, I fucking hate it, which you all probably could have guessed. Obviously, as Riley said last week, projections don't lie. 118 to 108 is the projections here. I do like my chances this week. I think Breece Hall obviously poses the biggest threat. Javonte Williams against the Bills also is a little bit scary, with the Bills being as banged up as they are in the front. And I do think the only reason I'm not as worried about the 2 Lions is just because if that game turns into a shootout, which I think it very well could and should, at least I have Justin Herbert there to alleviate some of the pain. Also CeeDee Lamb will be wide receiver 1 by the end of the season, I think. So maybe not 1, 3. I'll give him top 3. Look at the rest of the schedule. He's going to be top 3 wide receiver at the end of the season. He went from 24 to 6 in 2 weeks. Anyway, here's my CeeDee Lamb rant. Yeah, I think I should win this week. I think Tim very easily has the firepower to take me down. I think it's going to be close. I hate that he has 3 players on Monday night. I'll say that. So I think it should be an exciting finish. And yeah, I know. Like I said, we all remember the week 1 game. Came down to Monday night, for better or worse. Cool. Next game. Cameron versus Wade. I said this one was the most interesting, or I don't even know if I said that. I know I thought it. I don't remember if I said it or not, but I definitely had that thought. This game also super interesting. I talked about it when we were looking at kind of different playoff scenarios. I think the winner of this game is very safely in the playoffs. I think they're kind of in lame duck territory for the next 3 weeks because I don't think they're jumping into a 1 or 2 seed. But I don't think they're falling out of the playoffs if they win. So Winning this game's kind of just relaxing for 3 weeks, playing for pride. You know, pride. But having said that, the loser of this game is in a fucking pickle, because I think one of Trevor, Charlie, or Ashley, most likely Trevor or Ashley, is gonna make a run. And I think they're coming for that 6 seed, and I think the loser of this game is the one that's gonna get knocked out. I'm gonna be really honest. Now, could that change? Absolutely. That's my prediction. Yeah, Cameron's kind of fucked because he's got the Chiefs on a bye. I actually just did not even notice that before I started talking. Who does? Oh shit, we have the Eagles and the Rams on a bye for. Oh fuck, this is gonna be a shit show. I have no idea what's about to happen in this game. Trevor Lawrence, I think, will eat up the 49ers. So I think, I think Sam Howell is gonna eat up the fucking the Seahawks too. I don't think Chuba Hubbard's doing shit against the Bears. I'm gonna be really honest. As bad as the Bears are, the Panthers are worse. Bijan, who the hell knows what Bijan's gonna do, if he's even gonna touch the ball. Ramondre had a great week last week, which if we all know that New England running backs are the pinnacle of consistency. So great. Devontae Adams is playing against the Jets defense that should lock him the fuck down. Maybe not lock him down, but Aiden O'Connell's not getting him the ball against that defense. We've seen, top 5 quarterbacks in the league not do a damn thing against the Jets. I don't think Aiden O'Connell is coming in and lighting him up. I think Tank Dell could have another big week. I think James Cook could have a massive week against the Broncos. Really hope he does, considering I'm playing against Josh Allen. On the other side, like I said, Chuba Hubbard I don't think is doing shit. Cortland Sutton I think could have a big day. The Bills secondary is in shambles right now. Mark Andrews looks all the way back. Dak is absolutely slinging the ball to anybody not named Brandon Cooks, so we'll see if he can start finding him. I think there's a shot. Is there a small shot that Justin Jefferson comes back this week? I mean, yeah, there's a small chance he comes back and maybe saves Cameron's season and saves his week. And the good news for Cameron is you get Achane back next week. Bad news is, I think, like I said, I think you got to win this week to stay alive. Cameron, this is do or die. Cameron, if you win this week, you have a real shot to make a massive run. With Justin Jefferson and Devon Achane coming back, and Mahomes, I assume he's gonna, stop playing like wet dog ass at some point. Yeah, he gets the Eagles. Oh shit, he gets the Eagles, Raiders, Packers, Bills. Once again, bad secondary. I need to come up with the power ranking of defenses that aren't what you think they are. Like Bills bad, 49ers bad, Lions good, Seahawks bad but fun. I gotta come up with that list. Anyway, Mahomes gets a bunch of bad but fun ones. So Cameron win, and I think you make a deep playoff run. I'm gonna be really honest. I think you have a solid chance of upsetting everyone. You just have to win this week. That's it. Having said that, I think I like Wade to win this week. Final answer. Andrew and Raleigh. Now this is the game that could mean absolutely nothing, or could mean everything. Andrew is the kind of the third team out, odd team out this week, just because he's not playing someone that directly affects him. But this is probably the most important game of Andrew's season, because much like the Cameron and Wade game, Andrew losing this would be devastating, especially if 2 of those teams that I mentioned earlier start to make a big run. So Andrew, you're eliminated if you lose? No. Does it hurt you a lot? Yes. So just win, dude. Just win and make the top, make the seeding, make the 1 and 2 seed very interesting for us. Yeah. Unfortunately for Andrew, he's missing his number 1 overall pick, which has it really mattered this season? I think 2 weeks it has. I'll give him 3 weeks. 4, 16. Yeah, anything below 10, it hasn't really mattered, because that's what a normal tight end does. So 4 times it's mattered this season that he had his number 1 overall pick, and this week he just doesn't have him at all. The good news is you got Joe Burrow playing the Texans, and Joe Burrow is all the way back. And on the other side, Raleigh is stuck with Lamar Jackson playing the Browns. Lamar Jackson's been playing incredible ball, not incredible fantasy ball, but incredible ball. But the Browns are an elite defense, and historically, the AFC North games are just ugly, knockdown brawls. I was convinced Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave were going to go nuclear last week against the Bears, and they just didn't. Kamara had 9 points, 26 yards on fucking 9 rushes, 5 catches. Sorry, 4 catches for 44 yards. Olave did have a decent day. Basically, he caught a touchdown to salvage his day. 46 yards and a touchdown. This week they get the Vikings, who once again doing weird defense power ranking. Vikings, not good but not bad is where I'd put them. They're not bad. They're all right. They've got a decently stout front that can stop the run. Their secondary is a little bit whatever, but I don't think Derek Carr's exactly carving them up. The Hunter Henry pickup is interesting. I proudly proclaimed Hunter Henry to be a league winner in week 2, before realizing that Mac Jones was actually possibly the worst quarterback in football right now. Ironically enough, I proclaimed him a league winner for Raleigh, who actually did pick up a possible league winner in Dalton Kincaid. So good for him. So happy for him. Nobody deserves it better. Also, David Montgomery's playing the Chargers this week, which I forgot about that. So yeah, which the run defense hasn't looked horrible. Obviously last week against the Jets, they limited Breece Hall pretty well. I think he still had a pretty decent day. I think he had like 15 points. But they limited that big explosive run. Of course, the Jets offensive line is maybe the worst in football, and the Lions is maybe the best in football. Stephon Diggs against the Broncos is terrifying. Yeah. I was trying to hype you up, Andrew, just because I really wanted my next week's game against Raleigh to be interesting. But he's already got the head-to-head on me. Anyway, Raleigh is going to win again this week, and we're all just going to be upset about it. Even without Raheem Mostert, without AJ Brown. Yeah, I really would have enjoyed those buys being next week. That would have been a lot of fun. But I think he's going to hold up just fine. David Montgomery's probably going to have 2 touchdowns. Austin Eckler also probably going to have 2 touchdowns. And Stephon Diggs is going to just shred the Broncos. And that should be enough to get the win. So whatever the rest of your team does, great. Also, the last time the Cowboys played the Giants, they had 38 points. So just a fun fact to keep in the back of your head. All right, now we get to the chaos bracket. Let's start with Ashley and John. Probably the quickest and easiest to talk about, unfortunately. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs against the Chargers. I did just talk about David Montgomery's coming back, and that'll obviously eat into his production a little bit. But Jahmyr Gibbs went the fuck off last time we saw him on the football field. 152 yards and a touchdown. Looks like they're finally letting him loose. Obviously, David Montgomery's going to take over a lot of work inside the 10, or inside the red zone in general. But Jahmyr Gibbs should be able to get chunk plays, and should be obviously the premier option in the passing game. And like I said, I think that game against the Chargers has potential to turn into a bit of a shootout. So there'll be plenty of opportunities for both guys to eat at the top. CJ Stroud, like I said, just coming off. Oh, I can finally look at his attempts because I just made it here. Let's see, give me a stat line. 42 pass attempts. 3 of them went to Nico Collins. 470 yards, 5 touchdowns. The greatest performance ever by a rookie. One of the greatest performances I've ever just watched. Just a dominant performance over the Buccaneers. And this week he gets a Bengals team that is also susceptible against the pass, and also a little bit stout against the run. So does he repeat this performance? No, I don't think many people do. Is he going to be good enough? Yeah, I think so. I think 300 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns is not absolutely out of the question here, and that's a more than good enough day out of your quarterback. On the flip side, talk about surprises. Dak Prescott is has been QB1 the last 2 weeks, putting up 28 points in each of those weeks, and I don't see any reason outside of game script that it doesn't continue here. And that's what scares me the most about CeeDee Lamb, is that game script is going to take over, as it did in week 1 against the Giants, when they immediately had a special teams touchdown and a defensive touchdown, and it was like 14-0 before the offense even touched the ball. Yeah, I think that has potential to happen here again, and I just don't know that there's going to be the opportunity for Dak to throw it 44 times like he did last week. But I do think there's a lot of potential for those passes to be extremely efficient. And I think this is bullshit. Most of the times I really like these rankings and I like to look at them. I'm going to go with the Giants are actually not that good against opposing quarterbacks. They're just getting the shit kicked out of them so early that the quarterbacks don't have to throw. Also, they play Zach Wilson that 1 week. Anything else sticking out? Oh, Adam Thielen's night against the Bears should be fun to watch. Jerry Jeudy against the Bills. Talked about Cortland Sutton a little bit. Like I said, the Bills secondary is banged up. that should be an interesting Monday night game. Maybe shootout territory. That could be fun. I'd rather not, but that could be fun. Actually, I mean, Tim's defense has a Bills defense too. It could be interesting. Anyway, yeah, I talked 3 weeks ago about how Kyle Pitts is back. I'm with Taylor Heineke. He should be fine. I was wrong. Sorry, Ashley, but I wanted to be good just as bad as you do, I think. If not, maybe even a little bit more. So I'll keep riding with you on Kyle Pitts, even though he's working my shit a little bit. Yeah, I mean, as far as picking a winner here, we need a fun outcome and we need a good outcome. Fun outcome would be, actually, honestly, the most interesting outcome is Ashley winning too. If John wins, she's eliminated and we're down to basically 3 teams that can make the playoffs. I do think Ashley's going to win this. Yeah. Could Garrett Wilson and Hollywood Brown go off and Jahmyr Gibbs repeat his performance? Absolutely. Are they going to? Probably not. Although Hollywood does get Kyler back this week, so maybe that's a good thing. I think Ashley's going to win though. Now the absolute main event, the creme de la creme of this week. Somebody's going home. Somebody's staying alive. Charlie versus Trevor, in a battle for the 6th seed. They could end up wherever, but the battle for the 6th seed is what I'm deeming this. Winner goes home. I think I already said that. Anyway, whatever. Geno Smith versus Jared Goff. It's so beautiful. I wish they were playing in real life, because that game's always electric too. I think Jared Goff clearly has the upper hand in that, playing against the Chargers and just on a better team and playing better ball right now. For Trevor, obviously Travis Etienne, against the 49ers this week. Travis Etienne has been a bit of a godsend for Trevor. Yeah, 4 games in a row over 20 points is pretty dominant. He had that stretch of 3 games in a row where he had 2 touchdowns apiece, and then still had 1 last time we saw him. We kind of forgot about him a little bit because he's been on the bye week, but he's been consistently RB2 on the year. It's been McCaffrey and Etienne. I don't know who overtook him. Would have overtaken him. Poster maybe. I don't know. Whatever. Most of the season it's been McCaffrey, Etienne, with Mostert kind of in the mix there. But he does get I talked about the 49ers defense sneaky being bad. Their front's still okay. They defend against the run very well, but obviously Etienne in the passing game is a huge threat. Keenan Allen, coming off a very rough week against the Jets. But the Jets make a lot of teams look rough. Hasn't scored a touchdown in 3 weeks, and that's kind of hindered his performance. But they really haven't needed him to step up and step out. I think they do against the Lions. I think they absolutely have to start feeding Keenan Allen again. We see anytime they play a good to above average team, he kind of gets a bigger role. Against Dallas a couple weeks ago, he had a touchdown. The Titans and the Vikings earlier this season, 111 yards, 215 yards. Are those bad secondaries? Yeah. But they're also decent teams where they had to kind of stay in it. And I think that's what we get against the Lions again this week. So I think he has potential to have a monster week again. Kenneth Walker, what did he do last week? Did he play last week? Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. They got fucking creamed by the Ravens. Yeah, 2.2 yards, man. That's tough. Should have a much better week against the Commanders this week. Obviously a much weaker defense. But Charlie just having to ride the Seahawks train and a Seahawks team that isn't what they were last year. It's still just tough to see. Obviously he's gonna have weeks where they do just go off. I was on the receiving end of one of those, unfortunately. But consistency, I don't think is gonna be here, and that's what I've talked about with Charlie all season. We've seen it. He put 143 on my head. It can happen any given week. I just don't trust the consistency to be able to week in, week out put up, 100 to 115 points and just pump out wins like that. And that's what scares me with Charlie's team and what I like about Trevor's team. Obviously he's gotten fucked a couple times where he did consistently put up those points and he just got beat by a better team that week. Happens. I've had it happen to me a couple times by Charlie, fucker. But having said all that, Debo and Kittle against the Jags do have potential for this to be the week that they pop off. I say that every week that they play. I trust my duo a little bit more with CMC and Ayuk, but Debo and Kittle are just as explosive when they get their opportunities. I just don't think you overcome Keenan Allen, Jamar Chase, Evan Ingram, Derrick Henry, ETN, Josh Jacobs. Like, we've talked about it. If Trevor sneaks his way into the playoffs, he's a very dangerous team. Maybe the best roster in the league. Which is why a lot of us that are kind of comfortably in the playoffs, heavy rooting for Charlie. However, I don't think Charlie has the firepower to pull it off this week. I don't think he has the matchups to pull it off this week. And at the end of the day, like I said, Trevor's roster is one of the scariest, most explosive in the league. I think he wins this. I think he stays alive. I think it's kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? Fuck. When you just bet the favorite. What's that word? I don't know. Whatever. It's the public pick. It's the easy pick. Why can't I think of that fucking word? I'm going to think of it the second I hit stop recording. Anyway, I think, like I said, I think Trevor's the heavy favorite to get into that 6 seed at this moment. He's got an uphill battle of having to win a couple games in a row, but I think his team's capable of doing it. So that is your week 10 preview. Yeah, should be a very, very interesting week. I think a lot of close games. Like I said, a great week to have smallest margin of victory be the mini game, because I think there's going to be a lot of really close games across the board. So let's have a good week out there, everyone. Good luck. Enjoy the game tonight, or don't watch it. It's probably what I'm going to do. So, peace.